So the next seam that we're going to do is a French seam. So I've cut 2 rectangular pieces. Now I've gone for patterned this time so that it's easier to see. So if you have got patterned material, try and pick out a pattern, because you've got a right side of the fabric and you've got a wrong side of the fabric. So with that, you can see the difference. So you can see that the right side is a nice bold pattern and the wrong side is faded. If for any reason you haven't got any patterned material, just use the plain that you've got, but just give yourself a little marker. So you can put on it right side, so RS, and then on this side you can put RS too. So then you'd know that these sides were the right sides. So I'm going to show you with the patterned. So the difference between a French seam is that it's a little bit backwards. So usually you would put right sides together, but in this instance you're putting the wrong sides together. So you want the wrong side and the wrong side together. So you're putting the edges together and you're just going to pin it along, and obviously it's your preference to how you pin. I'm going to pin this way. Now we're working with a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, or 5/8 of an inch. So with a French seam, there's 2 stages. So the first stage is a small seam, which is 0.5 centimetre. So 0.5 centimetre equates to 2/8 of an inch. So I'm going to just go to the sewing machine and show you. So if you're not sure where 2/8 of an inch or 0.5 centimetre is, just measure again with your tape measure. So I'm just going to do the centimetres. So I'm just putting the 3 centimetre mark, because this is in the way. I'm just putting the 3 centimetre mark where the needle is, and I'm just going to measure out. So I can see then that the 0.5 centimetre mark is there, which is in line with the hole of the foot there, which is in line with the feet underneath. So I'll show you where I'm going to line mine up. So it's always handy to have your tape measure. So I'm going to line mine up so it's only going over the feet on that side. So I'm going to start it off like I would a normal seam. I've got it lined up. I'm on a straight stitch, and I'm going to start with my needle in, and then I'm going to do a zigzag stitch. No, I'm not going to do a zigzag stitch. I'm going to do back stitch. I'm going to go forward a couple, then a back stitch, and then I'm going to keep running it through. So I'm just stopping and making sure everything's okay, and then I'm carrying on. I don't want the material to run away. And a back stitch at the end. So that is stage 1. So I'm going to take the pins out. And then I am going to open that out. I'm just going to check everything's okay. So that's all stitched fine. Now, if you can see, there's a few little bits that are coming away. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut down there before I do the next stage, so that I know I've got a clean cut going into the next part. Now I'm going to open out the seam. Now if you can, open it out and get an iron down it open, that'll give you a real nice flat edge to start off with. So I'm just trying to pull it apart because this is the first press. So if you can see, it is tiny. So if it's tiny and you can't, so I'll show you that side. And then if it's tiny and you can't quite get it open, what you can do is if you put your iron on at this side, and then press, again, not pull it, but keep it taut, pull it across and just iron it to one side. But by pulling it and keeping it taut, you're actually trying to separate the seam. So you've got a nice flat finish. So if we just turn it over. So I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to bring all of them across to one side now. So by opening it first, if you can, you're giving yourself that nice flat seam. And then what happens is, so we've got our right side, and then what we're going to do, we're going to bring, so this is the right side of the fabrics. So we put the wrong side of the fabrics together, we stitched down, and then we've pressed it, we've cut a nice line, and then we're going to bring the right sides of the material together. So we're bringing the, just show you, so bringing the right sides together. So can you see, this is where the seam is. Now you're going to pinch the seam together. And then you're going to run the iron down it. If it's material that you can use an iron on, because generally the French seam is used for lightweight materials. So lightweight materials like chiffons, sheer material, lace, if it's thin lace. I mean, you can use it on cotton, it's fine to use it on cotton. French seam does not like going around bends because obviously you have to turn it twice. So I've pressed that in place now. And now what I'm going to do, so my seam allowance was 1.5. I've already used half of it. So I've already used 0.5 centimetre of the one. So now I'm going to pop it into the machine. And now I'm going to find my 1 centimetre marker. So again, I'm putting the 3, just because I can see that bit. So I'm putting the 3 in where the needle is, and then where the 2 is, which is 1 centimetre, I'm going to just put a mark on so I know that that's where my centimetre marker is. Now if you're in inches and you're using inches, you've used 2/8 of your inch, so now you'll be using the rest, so which is 3/8 of the inch. So now you're going to do another stitch that runs down straight again with a back stitch at the beginning of the end. So I'm going to put that in against my 1 centimetre marker. And then I'm going to run it down, back stitch at the beginning and the end to secure it. And we're going to run another back stitch at the end. And then I'm going to pull that away. So here you have a French seam. So I'm going to open it on the right side. So the right side of the fabric is now, looks like your normal seam. So I'm going to give it a press on the right side, and then I'm just going to show you the wrong side. So your seam allowance that you first stitched is now encased in here. So it's a self-bound seam. I'm just going to give this a press. So when you press in, you always press towards the centre if you're doing vertical seams, so towards the centre of the body, and if you're doing horizontal seams, you're pressing down towards the feet. So there you go, that is a French seam.